Today I'm going to show you how to make a vegan version of my Japanese curry recipe from scratch that's just as flavorful as the original. So stick around! Curry probably isn't the first thing you picture when you think of Japanese food, but in the 150 years since its introduction, it's become one of the most popular comfort foods here in Japan. I first posted a recipe for Japanese curry that doesn't use those instant roux blocks over a decade ago, but making it plant-based has been a tougher nut to crack. That's why I'm super excited to be able to share this recipe with you today. With loads of sweet veggies and meaty mushrooms simmered in a thick curry sauce, this vegan curry is brimming with umami. It also has the right balance of sweet, savory, and spicy notes, which makes each bite better than the last. Are you hungry yet? Let's start with a look at our ingredients. The first thing we need to do is make a broth using 2.5 cups of water, 10 grams of konbu, and 12 grams of shiitake mushrooms. Speaking of mushrooms, we need 450 grams of any flavorful mushroom. I'm using a mix of maitake, cremini, and button mushrooms today. We also need 2 tablespoons of oil and a half teaspoon of salt to sauté these with. For our curry base, I'm using 400 grams of onions, 200 grams of carrot, 30 grams of garlic, 25 grams of ginger, a quarter teaspoon of baking soda, a quarter teaspoon of salt, and 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. This is gonna get seasoned with a quarter cup of soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, 3 tablespoons of ketchup, 4 tablespoons of Japanese curry powder, and 2 teaspoons of cocoa powder. For the stuff that goes into our curry, I'm using a 439 gram can of chickpeas, 225 grams of carrots, 450 grams of potatoes, and 100 grams of shelled edamame. I'm gonna start by soaking the konbu and shiitake mushrooms in water. This will take anywhere from an hour or two for the ingredients to rehydrate and release their flavor, so you'll want to do this as early as possible. When the broth is ready, remove the konbu and shiitake from the liquid. You can discard the konbu, but we're gonna add the mushrooms into our curry. Just trim off and discard the tough stems, and then slice the caps as thinly as possible. To prepare the rest of the mushrooms, you'll want to clean them first depending on the type of mushroom. For these button and cremini mushrooms, I use a damp paper towel to wipe off any growing medium or debris. You don't want to wash mushrooms because they'll get waterlogged, which makes them much harder to brown. For small mushrooms, you can use them whole, but for the bigger ones, you'll want to halve them or quarter them. These cultivated maitake are grown indoors, so they don't need to be cleaned. I'm just going to shred them up with my hands and put them into the bowl like this. For the carrot that's going into the curry, I've already peeled it and I'm going to trim off both ends. Then I'm going to slice off a chunk at a 45-degree angle and rotate the carrot 90 degrees before slicing off another chunk. This technique is called rangiri in Japanese, and it's also known as an oblique cut in English. Aside from creating a lot of surface area, it also lets you cut awkwardly shaped root vegetables like carrots into pieces that are about the same size, which makes it a great cut for soups and stews. Next, I'm gonna cut up our peeled potatoes. These are pretty small, so I'm just gonna cut most of them in half. But if you have a bigger potato, you can cut them in the same way as the carrots. Now I'm gonna add a splash of water to the veggies and cover them with a microwave-safe lid and pop the bowl in the microwave oven at 800 watts for about 5 minutes or until the veggies are tender. You could also boil these in a pot of water. While we wait for these to cook, let's prep the veggies for our curry base. For the onions, I'm just gonna slice them up and add them to a food processor or blender. For the carrot, just trim off the ends, cut it in half lengthwise, and then slice it up. Then we're gonna add these to the food processor as well. Next, I'm gonna slice up the peeled ginger against the grain and add those to the food processor. And same drill for the garlic. Now I'm gonna affix the lid and run the food processor until the aromatics are fully pureed. You may need to stop it a few times to scrape down the sides. The thickness of my curry sauce comes from these veggies, so if you don't get this pureed smoothly enough, it's not gonna thicken properly. Okay, this is looking nice and smooth like applesauce, so it's good to go. Alright, let's see how our potatoes and carrots are doing. You want them to be fully cooked, so jab a few of them with a toothpick or fork to make sure they're nice and tender. Well, that's it for the prep. But before we start cooking, I want to thank all of my marvelous supporters who helped to make this video possible. There are a lot of ways to support this channel, so if you're learning something new from my recipes, hit the link in the description down below to see what you can do. To get started, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil to a heavy bottomed pot over medium heat, and then I'm going to add the mushrooms and saute them. One of the ways this curry gets all its umami is through Maillard browning, so it's super important to take your time here and get the mushrooms nice and brown. Adding some salt here helps speed this up a bit, so I'm gonna add a half teaspoon of salt. After about a minute, the mushrooms should start releasing some liquid, and it may look like it's starting to brown, but this is just enzymatic browning. What we want is Maillard browning, and for this to happen, all the liquid needs to evaporate, so keep sauteing. Once the mushrooms have reduced to about a quarter of their original volume and they're a deep brown like this, they're good to go, so let's get them out of the pan. Now I'm gonna go in with our puree of onions and carrots, along with the remaining salt and baking soda. The baking soda helps break down the pectin in the vegetables, and it also raises the pH of the mixture, which helps speed up caramelization. Just like the mushrooms, we need to get the aromatics to release their excess liquid and evaporate it, so stir this mixture for about 10 minutes until you have a nice thick paste. Then I'm gonna add the remaining 2 tablespoons of oil and fry this vegetable paste until it's nice and caramelized. At this point, this should only take about 3 minutes. Once your vegetable paste is shiny and caramel brown, add the curry powder, cocoa powder, and sugar, and stir them together. Work quickly here or the spices are gonna burn and it'll make your curry bitter. You should also end up with a nice thick layer of coffee brown fond on the bottom of the pan. Now I'm gonna add the soy sauce and ketchup, and we're gonna use these to deglaze the pan. This mixture is essentially a flourless curry roux, so you can make it ahead of time and freeze it with the sauteed mushrooms. Okay, that wraps up our curry base, so let's add the chickpeas along with the liquid from the can, our shiitake mushroom stock, the cooked carrots and potatoes, and our sauteed mushrooms. By the way, I've used legumes for the protein today, but this curry is fantastic with firm tofu, TVP, or even tempeh, so use what works for you. Now we just need to let this simmer over medium-low heat for all the flavors to get to know each other and the curry sauce to thicken up. This curry burns easily, so make sure you don't have the heat turned up too high, and give it a stir every few minutes to scrape up anything that's starting to stick to the bottom. After about 15 minutes of simmering, your curry should end up nice and thick like this, which is how you'll know it's ready to eat. If your curry cooks down too much and ends up too thick, just add a little more water to loosen it up. This also works when you're reheating leftovers the next day. To finish this off, I'm gonna add the edamame and stir it in. And our vegan Japanese curry from scratch is done. Alright, let's serve this up. Japanese curry is known as kare raisu in Japanese, which means curry rice. So I've got a big portion of Japanese short grain rice, and I'm gonna ladle our luscious curry off to one side. Like most stews, this curry is delicious freshly made, but it gets even better the next day. I don't know about you, but I'm ready to eat. So I've been smelling this curry for the better part of the last hour, and I'm starving, so let's dig in. Itadakimasu. All right, let's get a little bit of the curry, mix it up with some of that rice, and it looks so beautiful. Oh yeah. It's got that perfect balance of savory, sweet, and spicy that's a trademark of Japanese curry. And the combination of browned mushrooms along with those aromatics that we caramelize has created a ton of umami. All right, let's go in for another bite here. I'm gonna get some chickpeas, some edamame here. And it's got such a fun combination of textures, tastes, and flavors. You can't help but go back for another bite. It's super addictive. Oh yeah, this is it. This is my mom's comforting kare raisu, but without the roux and without the meat. Kare raisu is the ultimate Japanese comfort food, and now you can make it with all of the flavor and none of the guilt, so I hope you'll give it a try. If you enjoyed this video, let me know by giving this a big thumbs up and by sharing it with all your friends that love Japanese curry. Alright, I'm gonna go have the rest of this before it gets cold, but check out this playlist for more vegan-friendly recipes. And I'll catch you in the next one.